Life expectancy, while it's been trending upwards for the better part of the last century, seems to have stalled, and there does seem to be some evidence that the average life expectancy, at least in the United States of America, might be trending down.
That seems pretty crazy. All those statistics always get me, like the infant mortality rate for developed countries. We're actually an alarming number on the poll for having a first world country, where we rank for that. And now life expectancy is following suit.
Here we are, another Saturday State of Mind. Today we're going to talk a little bit about lifespan and how it relates to budgeting and just generally planning for the future. So, of course, Jess, a lot of people come into our office wondering how much money they're going to need in retirement and how many retirement years they're going to have to plan for.
Sure. Do you know the answer to all that?
Well, there's pretty standard practice. Okay. I mean, most people, if they retire around 65, life expectancy for somebody over the age of 60 is about 20 years. So you're planning to your early mid-80s. And then a lot of people, just to be on the safe side, like to plan into their early 90s or a little bit beyond, just depending on family history and a couple other factors, right? Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, though, life expectancy, while it's been trending upwards for the better part of the last century, seems to have stalled. And there does seem to be some evidence that the average life expectancy, at least in the United States of America, might be trending down.
That seems pretty crazy. All those statistics always get me, the infant mortality rate for developed countries. We're actually an alarming number on the poll for having a first world country, where we rank for that. And now life expectancy is following suit.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories as to what might be happening there. Is it some of the impact and fallout of COVID? Is it our diet or our lifestyle? Is it what's in the water and all the cell phone signals? We don't have to get all chemtrail conspiracy theorists right now. Things seem to be going in not so much the right direction. You might be familiar with Peter Attia, doctor on 60 Minutes the other week. His book's been on our coffee table for the better part of a year.
That's where I know him from.
Yeah, you've seen it?
He's seeing it every day, being is he ever going to read this thing?
So he says a lot of things, and I hope I do him justice here, but he talks about lifespan being one measurement for health success. But he kind of has coined another term called Healthspan, which is the number of years that you enjoy absent chronic illness. And he looks at the gap between average lifespan in a given country and average health span. And the difference between the two would tell you just on average how many years people in that country suffer with debilitating or chronic illness, which could include a whole host of different things, including dementia, heart disease, diabetes, liver issues, you name it, right? All the fun stuff.
It's really interesting because I think a lot of people think hey, I want this really long life. But then, of course, if you've ever known anybody that's been sick and maybe say they've, suffered for 10 years, 20 years, something like that. A lot of people say well, I think they would be better off maybe they didn't live. So more years isn't necessarily more better, right?
Yeah, that's entirely his whole argument, which is that, we've been enjoying longer lifespans, but do we have good health spans? And so when he looks at that gap, on average, how often is somebody suffering with a chronic issue? I'm sure this is going to really shock you here. The United States doesn't do all that great in this category either. Take a stab at it, Jess, for the people watching. What do you think the average length of chronic illness is for an American, according to Dr. Peter Attia?
Well, full disclosure, I did not read this book, so I'm going to guess 7 years.
Yeah, it's about 12.
Wow.
So now let's go back to some of the math, right? Because some of the people watching this YouTube video are wondering, how many years do I have to plan for? Again, on average, at least about 20 years. But what the statistics are telling us is that out of that 20, maybe 25 years that you're expected to live, roughly half or more of them might not be so great in terms of your health.
That's crazy. And obviously that impacts your spending. Because I see on one hand, well, you might actually have to spend more because of all the healthcare and the medication and the doctor visits and treatment. But on the other hand, you might not be taking as many vacations and trips. Right. So how's that balance?
So what I would do is kind of break this into some pieces. How long are you going to continue to work? Okay. Because the longer you work, you're digging deeper into your longevity years, which might get you closer to those years where you're struggling with some chronic issues. So retiring ahead of schedule is probably in your better interest if you want more good retirement years to enjoy. But of course, is that feasible? Can you swing it? What sacrifices might need to be made? That's something that's going to require some exploration. But retiring on the early side is going to aid you, of course. Another big thing is, how are you going to spend your money to enjoy yourself while you still have your health and energy? A lot of times people call this go-go spending for your go-go years. But how much can you spend? How much can you fearlessly put aside for the specific goal so that you're not suffering for it later. Because that's the other side of the coin. If we are going to consistently deal with, say, chronic issues later in life, at least in this country, what you kind of plot out when you say, look at your budget over time, is it kind of plots like a smile, and that you'll spend a lot in the early years. It tends to dip down a little bit as you lose your energy. Maybe you just want to putz around the house a bit, but then it could go back up on the other side, raising up, of course, for healthcare costs as we get a little bit older. So how do we account for what we want to do in the short term without paying for it later, finding ourselves shortchanged if there is a health issue?
Yeah, because I know some clients, come in, they say like, my goal is to leave this huge legacy. Some people say, I want to bounce my very last check. But in order to do that, you really have to understand your spending habits in retirement. And Mike, no one can predict what's going to happen tomorrow. And you're one health diagnosis away from like changing your whole trajectory of your retirement.
So it's a challenge, right? Because are you going to have chronic issues? And if you are, what are they going to cost and when are they going to happen? All of this is unknown. So you have to, of course, make some sort of basic assumption. Like, what if we just looked at an average experience? How much might it cost? How much do we have to put aside? And given all that, can we enjoy ourselves in the short term? It becomes a math problem at that point. And we can look at a variety of scenarios just to play with it till you get to a place where you're comfortable. But the point remains, it's like a tale of two cities, the best of times, the worst of times, right? We're living longer, and that affords us this opportunity to spend more and enjoy ourselves, retire early. Great stuff. But on the other side of the coin, due to our lifestyles, our diet, externalities, maybe the environment, there's issues, and those issues cost money. So how do we balance the two? Each case is going to be situational.
Yeah, it's a lot to consider, but it's definitely not one size fits all, right?
Right. So if you're looking to observe your particular situation and could use a second opinion, reach out to us. There's a link below. Saturday State of Mind.
If you liked this video and it helped you, watch another one. And don't forget to hit subscribe.